Throughout history, people have turned to ancient texts for guidance on unfolding global events, and one of the most fascinating and often discussed prophecies comes from the book of Ezekiel, specifically chapter 38. This passage describes a moment in the future when a coalition of nations will come together to launch an attack, and surprisingly, there will be an objection from an unexpected player: Saudi Arabia. This detail is particularly intriguing given the kingdom's current position on the world stage and its ongoing transformation. When we take a closer look at the prophecy and compare it with modern-day realities, it becomes evident that there is much to unpack and analyze. Let's break it down carefully, piece by piece, to truly grasp the significance of what this passage is saying. The scripture paints a vivid image of an alliance led by a figure named Gog, a mysterious leader who has been the subject of much debate among scholars. Many believe this figure represents a leader from a powerful northern nation, often associated with a country that spans a vast region. This leader is said to unite various countries, including several located in Central Asia and parts of what is now modern-day Turkey. Together, these forces will set their sights on a singular target: Israel. However, one country that is noticeably absent from this military coalition is Saudi Arabia. Instead of joining in, the kingdom, along with other nations, will raise a strong objection to this invasion, questioning its true motivations. The passage in Ezekiel 38:10 provides insight into the mindset behind this conflict, stating, "Thus says the Lord God, on that day, thoughts will arise in your heart, and you will devise an evil plan. You will say, I will go against a land of unwalled villages. I will attack a peaceful people who live securely, all of them living without walls, bars, or gates. I will seize plunder and carry off loot." This description of Israel stands in stark contrast to the current reality of the nation. Today, Israel is known for having some of the most fortified borders and highly advanced defense systems in the world. Its security infrastructure is among the most sophisticated, making it incredibly difficult for any large-scale invasion to take place. Yet, according to this prophecy, there will come a time when Israel will experience such a profound level of peace and security that its defenses will no longer resemble what they are today. This creates the perfect conditions for an opportunistic force to attempt an attack. But what would drive these nations to make such a move? The answer, according to Ezekiel, is wealth. The passage explicitly mentions that the invading forces will come to take plunder, seize valuable resources, and exploit what Israel has built. Looking at Israel today, this reasoning becomes even clearer. The nation has transformed itself into a hub of technological innovation, agriculture, and energy development. Once considered a land with few natural resources, Israel has turned barren deserts into thriving agricultural centers, using cutting-edge techniques in water management and irrigation. Its advancements in farming allow it to produce food in regions that would otherwise be uninhabitable. Beyond agriculture, Israel is also a rising energy powerhouse. Over the past few decades, significant reserves of natural gas have been discovered off the country's Mediterranean coast, making it a key player in the regional energy market. Some experts even speculate that beneath the land lies one of the largest untapped reserves of gold in the world. With all of these resources combined, it's easy to see why an alliance of nations might be tempted to take what Israel has built. However, amid this growing tension, Saudi Arabia's role stands out. Instead of supporting the invasion, the country is said to raise an objection, questioning the true intent behind the attack. This detail is significant because Saudi Arabia is currently undergoing a major transformation, redefining its position in the Middle East and on the global stage. The kingdom has shifted its focus toward modernization, economic diversification, and diplomatic engagement with other nations. Ezekiel 38:13 captures this stance, stating, "Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish with all their young lions will ask, 'Have you come to take plunder? Have you assembled your army to carry off silver and gold, livestock and goods, to seize great spoil?'" This verse suggests that Saudi Arabia and its allies will challenge the invaders, questioning whether their true motivation is purely material gain. For Saudi Arabia to take such a stance, it must be recognized as a respected and influential nation, focused on diplomacy and regional stability. This aligns perfectly with the path Saudi Arabia is currently taking. Over the past several years, Saudi Arabia has made major efforts to strengthen its role as a key player in the Middle East. It has been investing heavily in economic reforms, reducing its dependence on oil, and forging stronger trade relationships with its neighbors. One of the kingdom's most ambitious initiatives includes a massive trade corridor that aims to connect India to the Mediterranean. This project, once completed, could dramatically alter global trade patterns by providing an alternative to existing routes such as the Suez Canal. At the same time, Saudi Arabia has been engaging in diplomatic efforts to stabilize the region. The country has been involved in mediating conflicts, forming strategic alliances, and working toward economic partnerships that benefit multiple nations. For example, its collaborations with countries like Oman, the UAE, Iraq, and Kuwait demonstrate a shift toward a more cooperative regional approach. Even in areas of ongoing conflict, such as Yemen, Saudi Arabia has been advocating for diplomatic resolutions that aim to bring long-term stability. Taken together, all of these factors suggest that Saudi Arabia's role in the unfolding future will be one of influence, diplomacy, and economic leadership rather than military aggression. Its decision to speak out against the invasion of Israel in Ezekiel's prophecy reinforces this idea, highlighting its evolving position in global affairs. The key takeaway from all of this is that while ancient prophecies may have been written thousands of years ago, their insights into human nature, global power dynamics, and the pursuit of wealth remain as relevant today as ever. Whether one views these passages through a spiritual lens or from a historical perspective, they offer a fascinating glimpse into how events may unfold. And with the world changing rapidly, it's always worth paying attention to shifts in power, alliances, and economic trends that shape the course of history. In recent years, Saudi Arabia has taken a more strategic and measured approach to its role in the Middle East, seeking to strengthen its position both economically and politically. One of the most significant yet often understated aspects of this shift is its discreet communication with Israel through indirect channels. While formal diplomatic ties have not yet been established, there is growing recognition within Saudi leadership that building closer economic and strategic partnerships with Israel could be mutually beneficial. This aligns with a broader message found in Ezekiel 38, where Saudi Arabia is depicted as a nation that openly opposes an invasion of Israel rather than participating in it. This stance makes sense when considering Saudi Arabia's evolving geopolitical strategy. The kingdom has placed significant emphasis on economic expansion, stability, and fostering alliances that benefit its long-term goals. By working toward trade agreements, strengthening diplomatic relations, and developing economic partnerships with neighboring nations such as Jordan, Iraq, and Kuwait, Saudi Arabia is setting the stage for a more prominent leadership role in the region. This shifting landscape has been widely analyzed, with experts taking note of Saudi Arabia's careful yet deliberate moves. A recent article published by JNS, titled Saudi Arabia's Geopolitical Moves, sheds light on how the kingdom is positioning itself as a key player on the international stage. One of the most notable recent events that exemplifies this shift was the Riyadh Summit, a high-profile gathering where Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman addressed a variety of pressing issues affecting the Middle East. His speech underscored the kingdom's growing influence and reinforced the importance of stability across the region. At the summit, Saudi Arabia found itself in a complex balancing act. On one hand, the country is fostering relationships with long-standing allies, such as the United Arab Emirates, while simultaneously managing historically tense relationships with nations like Iran. Internally, the kingdom is also navigating significant challenges, including efforts to modernize its economy, address human rights concerns, and maintain a strong leadership presence. All of these factors play into Saudi Arabia's broader strategy to establish itself as a dominant and credible force in both regional and global politics. A particularly notable point of discussion at the Riyadh Summit was the ongoing issue of Palestinian statehood and the broader Israeli-Palestinian conflict. During his remarks, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman delivered a strong statement regarding the situation in Gaza, calling for greater international accountability and urging global leaders to ensure the protection of sovereign nations. His rhetoric took a critical tone toward Israel's actions in the region, which some interpreted as a firm stance in favor of Palestinian rights. However, upon closer examination of the original Arabic wording of his statement, analysts have debated whether the language was deliberately chosen to allow for multiple interpretations. Some experts argue that this speech was not necessarily a permanent shift in Saudi Arabia's diplomatic posture, but rather a carefully calculated approach meant to navigate the highly sensitive dynamics of Middle Eastern politics. Saudi Arabia must balance multiple interests, maintaining strong ties with Western allies, addressing the concerns of the broader Arab world, and advancing its own national objectives. While its leadership voices support for the Palestinian cause, there are also clear indications that it continues to explore potential pathways toward normalization with Israel. A deeper look at Saudi Arabia's strategy suggests that any future agreement with Israel would likely involve some form of recognition of Palestinian statehood, even if only in a symbolic manner. This approach allows Saudi Arabia to maintain credibility within the Muslim world, while still leaving open the possibility of formalizing relations with Israel when the time is right. This balancing act is crucial, as the kingdom is acutely aware of the regional implications of any shift in its diplomatic stance. The contrast in tone at the Riyadh summit is particularly striking when compared to Saudi Arabia's earlier engagements in regional peace efforts, including discussions surrounding the Abraham Accords. These accords, originally championed by the United States during the previous administration, aimed to foster diplomatic normalization between Israel and several Arab nations. While Saudi Arabia did not formally sign the agreements, it was widely believed to be supportive of the broader initiative. The recent shift in rhetoric, however, signals that Saudi Arabia is adopting a more nuanced and cautious approach, carefully evaluating its options while maintaining its regional influence. Ultimately, Saudi Arabia's evolving role on the global stage is one of careful diplomacy and strategic foresight. It is a nation in transition, seeking to balance its traditional values with its ambitions for modernization and economic diversification. While its relationship with Israel remains unofficial, the growing indirect engagement between the two countries suggests that long-term cooperation is not out of the question. The prophecy in Ezekiel 38, which portrays Saudi Arabia as objecting to an invasion of Israel, aligns with the kingdom's current trajectory, one that prioritizes stability, economic growth, and maintaining its leadership position in the ever-changing geopolitical landscape. Saudi Arabia's diplomatic landscape has been undergoing a significant transformation, particularly in how it navigates its relationships with major regional powers. A key development in this evolving strategy was its rapprochement with Iran in 2023, a move facilitated by China. This agreement introduced a new layer of complexity to the already intricate geopolitical situation in the Middle East. While Riyadh has engaged in direct dialogue with Tehran, it is evident that Saudi leadership continues to view Iran with a high degree of caution and mistrust. The diplomatic engagement between the two nations appears to be less about forging a deep alliance and more about managing tensions pragmatically, an effort to maintain regional stability while safeguarding Saudi Arabia's own strategic interests. This shift in Saudi Arabia's foreign policy approach reflects a broader desire for independence from its historical reliance on traditional allies, particularly the United States. For decades, Saudi Arabia's security and foreign policy were closely tied to Washington, but recent years have seen Riyadh taking a more multifaceted approach, diversifying its alliances, engaging with a range of global powers, and positioning itself as a leader capable of acting on its own terms. This independent strategy is evident in the way Saudi Arabia has maintained a delicate balance between multiple relationships, cautiously managing dialogue with Iran, maintaining covert cooperation with Israel, and deepening economic and diplomatic ties with China. These shifts indicate that the kingdom is no longer willing to be solely dependent on any single power, instead crafting a diplomatic strategy that aligns with its broader ambitions. One of the key factors influencing this strategic realignment has been a growing sense of uncertainty regarding the reliability of the United States as a partner. Over the past few years, certain decisions made by the U.S. government, particularly during the Biden administration, have contributed to Saudi Arabia's recalibration of its foreign policy. For instance, Washington's shifting stance on Yemen's internal conflict and its approach toward regional security issues left Saudi leaders feeling as though their concerns were not being prioritized. As a result, Riyadh has taken proactive steps to diversify its alliances and solidify its own standing as a regional powerhouse, rather than relying solely on American backing. As Saudi Arabia continues to expand its influence, its potential role as a mediator in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has become a subject of debate. Given its immense oil wealth, strategic geographic position, and leadership aspirations, Saudi Arabia is naturally positioned as a key player in regional diplomacy. However, its ability to act as a reliable peace broker has been challenged by ongoing criticisms regarding its domestic policies and governance model. Issues such as restrictions on political dissent, human rights concerns, and limitations on certain freedoms have led many to question whether Saudi Arabia can genuinely position itself as a promoter of peace in the region. One of the most widely cited cases and discussions surrounding Saudi Arabia's governance has been its handling of internal dissent and its approach to press freedom. Some critics argue that these issues undermine its credibility in global diplomacy. However, others point out that dismissing Saudi Arabia's role in regional affairs based solely on these concerns overlooks broader geopolitical realities. The truth is that Saudi Arabia remains a dominant force in the Middle East, and its decisions, whether economic, diplomatic, or security-related, have ripple effects across the entire region. From a strategic standpoint, Israel recognizes the potential benefits of a stronger relationship with Saudi Arabia. Likewise, Saudi leadership understands that normalization with Israel would provide significant economic and security advantages. This awareness has led to discreet, behind-the-scenes cooperation between the two nations, even while public rhetoric may suggest otherwise. Saudi Arabia has repeatedly expressed public criticism of certain actions taken in the region, yet privately, there have been increasing signs of coordination, particularly in areas related to regional security and intelligence sharing. Should Saudi Arabia successfully achieve its aspirations of reshaping the Middle East, the entire geopolitical landscape of the region could shift dramatically. The kingdom's growing influence in trade, security, and diplomacy suggests that its actions will continue to play a pivotal role in shaping the future of the Middle East. In fact, the way Saudi Arabia has recalibrated its foreign policy in response to shifting strategies has already created lasting changes that continue to influence regional dynamics. One of the most telling indicators of Saudi Arabia's evolving strategy is the way it handles regional security threats. In a significant moment, when a series of aerial strikes were launched toward Israel, Saudi Arabia's defense systems played a role in intercepting many of these threats, demonstrating a covert alignment in strategic interests despite the lack of official diplomatic relations. This duality, a public stance that often critiques Israel contrasted with behind-the-scenes coordination, illustrates the complexity of Saudi Arabia's balancing act. As the kingdom continues to redefine its role, one thing is clear. Saudi Arabia's decisions have far-reaching consequences, not just for its own future, but for the entire Middle East. Whether through carefully navigating its relationship with Iran, strengthening indirect ties with Israel, or engaging with new global partners like China, Saudi Arabia is positioning itself as a nation that is determined to lead on its own terms, shaping the future of the region in the process. Saudi Arabia has long served as a barometer for regional stability, with its diplomatic decisions and geopolitical maneuvers often setting the stage for broader Middle Eastern dynamics. Whether moving toward reconciliation or escalation, Saudi Arabia's actions frequently influence the course of events across the region, making it a key player in shaping the future. This is why closely monitoring Saudi Arabia's evolving policies, alliances, and strategies is crucial for understanding the larger geopolitical landscape. What happens within Saudi Arabia often serves as an early indicator of wider shifts in the Middle East. From its economic initiatives to its security policies, the kingdom's decisions have a ripple effect that extends far beyond its borders. By observing these developments, analysts and observers can gain valuable insight into the direction in which the region is heading, whether toward peaceful cooperation or increased tensions. Understanding Saudi Arabia's role is not just about politics and diplomacy. It is about recognizing the larger forces at play in shaping the world's future. To fully grasp the significance of Saudi Arabia's evolving position, it is helpful to view these developments within a broader historical and spiritual context. Throughout history, Major shifts in the Middle East have often been intertwined with deeper themes of faith, prophecy, and divine purpose. Many people believe that by studying scripture, one can gain greater clarity on the patterns of history and how they align with current events. Saudi Arabia, as a major power in the region, naturally finds itself at the center of these unfolding narratives. For those who turn to biblical prophecy, studying historical text offers a unique perspective on the changes happening in the Middle East today. The more one immerses themselves in Scripture, the clearer the connections become between past prophecies and modern-day geopolitical shifts. This not only enriches one's understanding of history and global affairs, but also provides a sense of anticipation regarding the future. The unfolding of events serves as a reminder that history is not random, but rather follows a larger pattern that has been spoken of for centuries. The future holds extraordinary possibilities for those who remain observant and reflective. While the precise timeline of major global events remains unknown, many believe that the signs of larger changes are already visible. The key is to stay aware, prepared, and engaged with the world. In moments of uncertainty, faith offers reassurance, serving as a guide through shifting times. Those who remain vigilant and discerning will recognize the deeper significance behind the trends shaping the world today. Ultimately, the unfolding events in Saudi Arabia and the Middle East as a whole serve as a powerful reminder that history is constantly moving toward transformative moments. Whether through political shifts, diplomatic breakthroughs, or economic realignments, the changes we see today are part of a much larger picture. By staying thoughtful, observant, and hopeful, one can navigate these times with a sense of purpose and optimism. The future is still unfolding, and the best is yet to come. As Saudi Arabia continues to redefine its role in the Middle East, its strategic maneuvering influences not only regional politics, but also global dynamics. With every diplomatic shift, new economic initiative, or security decision, the kingdom's actions reverberate across multiple continents, shaping alliances and realigning interests. What makes Saudi Arabia particularly significant is its unique ability to navigate multiple spheres of influence, balancing relationships with Western powers, neighboring Arab states, and emerging economic giants like China and India. This balancing act requires careful political calculations, as every move impacts both short-term stability and long-term ambitions. One of the most crucial aspects of Saudi Arabia's transformation is its economic diversification. For decades, the kingdom relied heavily on oil exports, using its vast petroleum reserves to maintain its economic and geopolitical leverage. However, as global energy markets evolve and countries invest more in renewable resources, Saudi Arabia recognizes the necessity of reducing its dependence on oil. This realization has led to the ambitious Vision 2030 initiative, a strategic plan that seeks to reshape the nation's economy by investing in technology, tourism, infrastructure, and finance. A key element of Vision 2030 is the creation of NEOM, a futuristic megacity designed to attract investment, tourism, and innovation. This city, currently under development, represents Saudi Arabia's commitment to modernization, showcasing its desire to become a hub for global business, artificial intelligence, and technological advancement. By promoting projects like NEOM, Saudi Arabia is not just positioning itself as a regional leader, but as a country with a vision for the future, one that extends far beyond oil. However, economic expansion alone does not define Saudi Arabia's shifting role. The geopolitical landscape surrounding the kingdom remains just as critical. Its relationships with Iran, Israel, the United States, China, and other key players continue to evolve, shaping the direction of future alliances. One of the most fascinating aspects of Saudi Arabia's diplomatic approach is its ability to engage with historically opposing forces simultaneously. While tensions with Iran have been a defining feature of regional politics for decades, Saudi Arabia's willingness to enter dialogue with Tehran, albeit cautiously, suggests a desire to prevent unnecessary conflict while still maintaining a strong position. At the same time, Saudi Arabia's quiet but growing collaboration with Israel cannot be ignored. Despite decades of public opposition to Israeli policies, behind closed doors, there have been increasing signs of security coordination and economic discussions between the two nations. This reflects a broader shift in Middle Eastern diplomacy, where economic and strategic interests are beginning to outweigh historic rivalries. While official normalization of ties has yet to be formalized, the increasing cooperation between Saudi Arabia and Israel suggests a potential breakthrough in the coming years. The United States has historically played a pivotal role in shaping Saudi foreign policy, but recent decisions have led Riyadh to seek greater independence from Washington. While the U.S. remains a major ally, Saudi Arabia has shown a growing willingness to challenge American policies when they conflict with its own national interests. This was particularly evident in oil production decisions, where Saudi Arabia prioritized its own economic considerations over Washington's preferences. Additionally, Saudi Arabia's decision to engage in stronger diplomatic ties with China signals a desire to diversify its strategic partnerships, ensuring it does not rely too heavily on any single global power. Saudi Arabia's evolving role also extends into the realm of military strategy and security. While it is known for investing heavily in defense, it is also seeking ways to prevent direct conflicts by using diplomatic leverage to influence regional events. For instance, Saudi Arabia has positioned itself as a mediator in certain regional disputes, recognizing that stability is ultimately in its best economic and political interests. A peaceful Middle East allows Saudi Arabia to focus on its long-term development goals, ensuring its continued growth as a global economic power. One of the biggest challenges Saudi Arabia faces is navigating its role in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. While Saudi leaders have historically supported Palestinian statehood, there is an increasing recognition that full diplomatic normalization with Israel could bring substantial economic and security benefits. However, Saudi Arabia must also balance this with maintaining its standing in the Muslim world, where support for Palestine remains a deeply emotional and political issue. This is why Saudi leadership has adopted a carefully measured approach, avoiding sudden moves while gradually laying the groundwork for a potential future agreement. Beyond politics and economics, Saudi Arabia's cultural evolution also plays a major role in its transformation. Traditionally known for strict social policies, the country has gradually introduced reforms aimed at modernizing its society while still adhering to its core cultural values. Changes in laws regarding women's rights, entertainment, and social freedoms indicate a gradual shift toward modernization, though the pace of change remains carefully controlled to avoid internal resistance. A particularly notable aspect of Saudi Arabia's transformation is its investment in religious diplomacy. The kingdom remains the custodian of Islam's two holiest sites, giving it immense influence over the global Muslim community. As Saudi Arabia takes on a larger role in global affairs, it also seeks to reinforce its position as a leading voice in Islamic leadership. This is why the kingdom has made efforts to present itself as a responsible and forward-thinking authority, one that promotes moderation, development, and regional stability. As Saudi Arabia continues to shape the future of the Middle East, it is clear that its decisions today will have lasting consequences for generations to come. Whether through economic expansion, diplomatic negotiations, security partnerships, or cultural shifts, the kingdom is making strategic moves that will define its place in regional and global affairs. The world is watching closely as Saudi Arabia navigates this new era, balancing tradition with progress, alliances with independence, and diplomacy with strategy. The question remains, what will the future hold for Saudi Arabia and its role in shaping the Middle East? While the exact path is uncertain, one thing is clear: the kingdom's influence is only growing, and its ability to impact global affairs will continue to expand. Those who closely follow Saudi Arabia's trajectory will gain valuable insight into the future of global power shifts, economic transformations, and diplomatic breakthroughs. As history unfolds, Saudi Arabia stands at a critical crossroads, determining not just its own destiny, but the fate of an entire region. As Saudi Arabia continues its transformation on the global stage, its actions are shaping not only the future of the Middle East, but also the broader global order. The kingdom has positioned itself as a regional powerhouse, using a mix of economic investment, strategic diplomacy, and military strength to reinforce its influence. As the world watches, Saudi Arabia is making calculated moves that could redefine alliances, shift economic power dynamics, and alter regional stability for years to come. One of the most significant factors in Saudi Arabia's evolving strategy is its deepening involvement in economic globalization. Traditionally, the kingdom has been known for its oil wealth, serving as one of the world's largest suppliers of petroleum. However, recognizing the changing energy landscape, Saudi leaders have been aggressively diversifying the economy through investments in technology, infrastructure, and tourism. These efforts are not just about financial growth. They are about building long-term resilience in an era where global reliance on fossil fuels is beginning to decline. At the heart of this transformation is Vision 2030, an ambitious initiative launched by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to reduce the country's dependence on oil. One of the most ambitious aspects of this vision is the construction of NEOM, a futuristic city designed to be a hub of innovation, artificial intelligence, and sustainable technology. This project, which is expected to cost hundreds of billions of dollars, is not just about creating a new metropolis. It's about signaling to the world that Saudi Arabia is ready to lead in the industries of the future. Yet, Saudi Arabia's economic diversification does not stop at NEOM. The country has been actively investing in global markets, acquiring stakes in major companies across the United States, Europe, and Asia. Through its sovereign wealth fund, the Public Investment Fund PIF, Saudi Arabia has been channeling billions into technology firms, entertainment companies, and renewable energy projects, positioning itself as a key player in emerging global industries. However, economic expansion alone cannot secure Saudi Arabia's place as a dominant power. It must also navigate the complex geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. This requires a careful balance between security, diplomacy, and military strategy. Saudi Arabia's relationships with regional and global powers are constantly shifting, requiring strategic flexibility. While the kingdom has long been aligned with Western nations, particularly the United States, it has increasingly sought to diversify its partnerships to reduce reliance on any single country. One of the most complex relationships Saudi Arabia must manage is with Iran. The two nations have been rivals for decades, competing for influence over the broader Muslim world and clashing over key regional conflicts. Yet, in 2023, a significant development occurred: Saudi Arabia and Iran agreed to restore diplomatic ties through a China-brokered deal. This move was seen as a historic breakthrough, potentially reducing tensions between two of the Middle East's most powerful countries. However, this agreement does not necessarily mean that Saudi Arabia and Iran have become allies. Instead, it reflects a pragmatic approach, one in which Saudi Arabia recognizes that maintaining a working relationship with Iran is more beneficial than outright hostility. The kingdom still views Tehran with deep suspicion, particularly over its support for armed groups in the region and its nuclear ambitions. Beyond Iran, Saudi Arabia's evolving stance toward Israel is also a crucial indicator of where regional diplomacy is heading. While official diplomatic relations have not yet been established, there have been increasing signs of cooperation, particularly in security and intelligence sharing. Saudi Arabia has historically supported the Palestinian cause, and its leaders understand that any formal recognition of Israel would need to be carefully managed to avoid backlash from both domestic audiences and the broader Muslim world. However, behind closed doors, Saudi Arabia's leadership recognizes that normalization with Israel could bring significant economic and security benefits. The kingdom has watched as other Gulf nations, such as the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, have signed the Abraham Accords, opening the door for increased trade, investment, and technology exchange with Israel. If Saudi Arabia were to follow a similar path, it could unlock a new era of economic collaboration that would further cement its role as a regional leader. As Saudi Arabia expands its influence, it is also investing heavily in its military and defense capabilities. The kingdom has one of the largest defense budgets in the world, purchasing advanced weaponry from the United States, Europe, and even developing its own military technologies. However, rather than relying solely on military strength, Saudi Arabia has increasingly used its diplomatic influence to manage regional conflicts. One of the most critical areas where Saudi Arabia has sought to exert its influence is Yemen. The ongoing conflict in Yemen has been a major security concern, with Saudi Arabia leading a coalition against armed groups that have disrupted regional stability. However, in recent years, Riyadh has shifted its approach, seeking a negotiated settlement to the conflict rather than prolonged military engagement. This move aligns with Saudi Arabia's broader goal of reducing regional tensions to allow for greater economic development. Beyond the Middle East, Saudi Arabia has also strengthened its strategic partnerships with global powers, including China, Russia, and India. The kingdom's growing relationship with China, in particular, has raised questions about its long-term alliance with the United States. While Saudi Arabia continues to work closely with Washington, it has shown a greater willingness to explore alternative partnerships, a sign that it is seeking greater independence in foreign policy. Saudi Arabia stands at a critical juncture in history, balancing economic transformation, diplomatic recalibration, and regional security dynamics. What once was a nation solely defined by its oil wealth and traditional alliances has now emerged as a multifaceted global player, influencing geopolitical strategies and economic landscapes far beyond the Middle East. The choices made by Saudi leaders today will determine not only the kingdom's future, but also the trajectory of global power structures in the years to come. As the kingdom pushes forward with its ambitious Vision 2030, its success in diversifying the economy, modernizing society, and expanding its international influence will be crucial in shaping the next chapter of its legacy. Whether through investments in futuristic projects like NEOM, diplomatic negotiations with regional powers, or forging new global partnerships, Saudi Arabia has positioned itself as a nation that is no longer simply following trends, it is setting them. Yet, challenges remain. Its relationships with key global powers, including the United States, China, Iran, and Israel, require delicate diplomacy. Its ongoing role in regional security and economic stabilization demands strategic foresight. Internally, the kingdom must navigate the delicate balance between modernization and preserving cultural traditions to ensure long-term domestic harmony. Despite these uncertainties, one fact remains clear. Saudi Arabia is no longer content to remain in the background. It is shaping the Middle East's economic, political, and security landscape, influencing global trade, and asserting itself as a leader in diplomacy, technology, and investment. For those who observe global affairs, the kingdom's trajectory is a powerful reminder of how quickly nations can transform and how these changes impact not just one region, but the entire world. The decisions made today will ripple across international markets, security policies, and alliances for decades to come. The world is watching. The future is unfolding. Saudi Arabia's next chapter is just beginning.